What's the, taking an overview of the whole graduate market, what's it like at the moment?
I think at this stage it is tough, right? But as Margaret mentioned, there are a number of graduates still gaining employment. And as a career consultant, I don't like to advise my candidates or people that come to me for advice about all the doom and gloom stories that are going out there, because it's just going to knock your confidence. And you don't want to be part of that 10% of individuals that don't get employed, because their mindset is different. They're not confident, they're reading into the papers, and they're making certain impressions about the market. But my advice to graduates is really, don't think about that at all. Be part of the 70% of individuals that do get employed, and with the right frame of mind and attitude, you can do that.
No, I think if you've touched upon a real important area there, confidence, your state of mind. Peter, as a psychologist, you know, the students going out there, they're in the recession, they're trying to get a job. It's got to hurt your confidence a bit, hasn't it? How do you deal with that?
Well, yes, confidence and also self-esteem. The confidence to actually go out there and put yourself in front of somebody, but then the self-esteem of when you get there, oh my gosh, I'm not going to measure up to everybody else.
There's huge expectations, aren't there?
That's right, yeah. So it's very important to actually work on your self-esteem and your self-confidence, and also that affects your self-image. You've got to imagine yourself as being that candidate that the employer is looking for.
All right, well, we've got some students here in the audience, and I really want to get some of their views as well. What are your experiences at the moment? Have you just recently graduated?
Yeah, I did my mechanical engineering, Masters of Engineering from Imperial College London this year.
Okay.
I have experience from last year. Basically, I applied to a couple of companies, engineering firms, and as again, Margaret said, they're downsizing. I actually got through the first round of interview and was asked to come to the final round. I won't mention the company, but in the end, they didn't invite me. They just sent me an email that says that due to the economic downturn of the situation, the economic situation, we are not hiring anymore, which was a bit of, as you said, self-confidence goes down there and then you think, shall I apply again or shall I wait? And again, this year, I've applied to a lot of companies, but the responses are delayed, a lot of them. I've been invited to second round interviews, but they say that you've been invited, but they do not get back to you in time.
Peter, that's something we were mentioning before, isn't it? That, you know, these people are applying for jobs and they're not getting anything back. And how do you sort of motivate yourself to keep going in that situation?
For a start, to recognise that everybody is in the same position, so there are a lot of other people doing exactly the same thing, so you're not alone. And therefore, it's nothing personal. Secondly, if you can try and find a way of being different, maybe just trying to find out who you should be contacting and pick up the phone. Okay, 9 times out of 10, you're going to fail, but if you can get through and talk to the person and actually get across your message, then you stand a better chance of getting an interview. No holds barred. Go any way that you can to try and get in front of them.
Margaret, if I could just turn to you. When employers are looking at potential people to employ, one thing I always hear is that you have to stand out from the crowd, you have to diversify yourself. So how do you actually go about and do that?
Well, one of the things you have to do is identify what skills you've got to offer. And if those skills can be developed in a wide range of different environments, then your CV potentially will stand out from the crowd. So by undertaking voluntary work or doing some part-time work in a different area from the actual career that you're targeting, then you could actually add some significant value to your CV. And they'll be looking for people who've made an effort, who've developed in the way that they want to take them on and develop them further. So it's the skills aspect, I think, is particularly critical.
Okay.
That's a crucial point Margaret's made. I think in CVs, where CVs really go wrong, is where individuals, they just list their responsibilities. And they don't take advantage of listing their achievements. And achievements is something that's always missing on most CVs.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to touch on CVs later on in the show as well. So let's go back to the audience as well. Do you think that's good advice? Is it really possible to go out and do volunteer work? And some people take a gap year as well. And how does that affect you if you're out of the market, so to speak, for so long?
I mean, I'm studying biochemistry and I want to do medicine afterwards. So my idea is if you get a job in the NHS, then that will give you, you're talking about, Margaret was talking about diversity in your CV. So But the thing is, even getting a voluntary job in the NHS, there is so much competition for that you know, it's really, really hard to even get that.
All right, okay, so one other aspect that I've heard as well, advice given to me, is that if you want to diversify yourself, because so many people are graduating, you shouldn't just stop at, you know, the graduate level. You should take it further, going into master's, PhD as well. Do you think that's realistic advice?
It's important that if you do decide to do a further qualification, that it actually not only enhances your knowledge, but increases your employability. So that it's something that an employer is going to look at and say, that's a valuable qualification that I'm interested in. And because doing further study can be actually quite expensive, you want to make sure your investment is very wise.
No, that's a good point as well, because
I think you should also generally try and do the follow-on course immediately you finish your first degree, because otherwise you tend to get rusty, you get out of the habit of learning, and it actually becomes harder to learn as you get older.
Sorry, can I just make up one other point on that? There was a very recent survey, I think again it was by the Association of Graduate Recruiters, who represent the biggest companies in the UK, and the AGR asked the recruiters if a student couldn't find a job when they graduated, were thinking about a postgraduate course, what was their advice? And they actually said, well, A, it's got to be relevant to what they want to do. It's got to have some value to where they want to go. And in fact, if it didn't, they would prefer to see somebody who'd gone off and got some temporary paid work, maybe in a different environment to increase their skills and knowledge, but not to do a postgraduate course just for the sake of it.
Okay. All right, let's get some views from our audience here as well. For those who are at uni, everyone goes through a stage where you're thinking, is this the right course for me? Should I be doing this? How do you deal with that? You got any experience of it?
Well, one of my colleagues in my first job, straight after uni, she'd actually done a biomedicine degree, but it was an accountancy job, and she said that the main reason she ended up in accountancy was because she couldn't find a job in her chosen field. Right. And you're right, it really didn't matter because the company did train her, and things worked out quite well for her. But one of my own colleagues that I went to school with, that I went to uni with, for 2 years after his degree, he still wasn't able to find a job, and that pretty much forced him for a career change. He had gone to do a degree in IT, but he's ended up becoming a teacher in, I think he's gone for psychology or something.
Okay.
But
So that's after 2 years?
After 2 years, he was looking for a long time.
Okay, so is there like a cut-off line where you think, hang on, I've been looking for a job for 2 years now, maybe I should try something different?
Yeah, thinking about my son, he got a first-class degree in film and media studies, actually tried to run his own company for a while, but things weren't on his side, and he ended up remembering everything that I told him about it doesn't matter what your degree is, it's the fact that you got one and it was a first. You can do anything, and he was convinced of that, so he ended up project managing in IT. Totally different subject, and he didn't know that much about IT at that time, but you learn it, and if you've got that idea in your mind that you can do anything, you can turn your mind to anything, then you can do so.
I think the key is to gain key skills and then be flexible as well. Rohan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, flexibility with regards to what? I mean, in the recession, you need to be flexible with regards to perhaps opportunities, salary, hours that you work, even geographical location. You know, the more flexible you are during the recession, the better chances you have of securing employment.
A good lesson from that. Sometimes you just do need to take the first job that comes your way. Rohan, would you agree with that? Or should you hold out until you get the job you're waiting for?
Well, the thing is, it really depends, again, on your circumstances and your line of interest. Sometimes if you've been made an offer, companies, you know, they expect you to sort of take some time to make your decision. So you can use that time as a bargaining chip with perhaps other agencies that you're actively recruiting, you're interviewing through. And they will use that to tell other companies that you haven't had an interview with or haven't had an offer from, that this guy, you know, he's about to go and get employed. So they start fighting amongst each other. But in this recession, perhaps, if you feel and you're comfortable with the idea of that company and what they're offering you, just take the job. I mean, thank your stars, yeah, and just get on with it.